What is up, Bitcoin miners? Welcome to another episode of the Build a Mine podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Bello, and I'm here with my amazing host, Will Pangman. Today, we have a really fun guest, and I say this all the time. I'm really excited, but I say it all the time because I'm just always really excited. Today, we have Jason Kontomitras from Hillfort. Jason is an experienced mining operations manager. He's taken several sites from greenfield to mining. He actually built one not too long ago, went from 1 megawatt all the way up to 14 megawatts. It was a hosting facility. Jason's a really cool dude. We had him on our mastermind deep dive session for hosting, I think a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. He's a really great guy. I really appreciate his time. I'm super excited about this podcast. Today we're going to be doing a little bit, not necessarily something different, but a little bit of a change up. Obviously, you can see I have a real background, which we've been working on getting something real because we just, we want real authenticity, all that good stuff. And so this is what we have. It's a work in progress. I hope you guys enjoy it. Today's kind of run of show is we're going to try to start diving into more of the technical aspects of building a Bitcoin mining operation. Today, we'll be focusing more on the scale size, 1 to 5, maybe 10 megawatt size, what's needed to get into actually building a site, finding a site, developing the site, EPC, which is engineering, procurement, and construction, all that good stuff. We're going to talk to Jason a little bit about his history and why he got into Bitcoin mining, and then, maybe talk about some of the mistakes that he's made in the past. So I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Before we do the episode, I'm going to hand it off to Will, and he's going to do a little thing.
Yeah, so just want to let everyone in the audience know this podcast is brought to you by the Mastermind Club. The Mastermind Club is the best way for aspiring miners to get a foothold in the world of Bitcoin mining. So if you're interested in learning more about mining and becoming a Bitcoin miner, you need to join a supportive community of like-minded individuals who meet weekly and share insights, exchange ideas, and provide mutual encouragement for their journey of Bitcoin mining. This mastermind club is led by seasoned pros and avid Bitcoiners, and the group sessions offer space to brainstorm innovative strategies, stay motivated towards your goals, small or large. Every week, we hold accountability sessions to help keep you on track and within your budget. As a member of this club, you'll gain access to our monthly deep dive sessions. We dive into a wide range of technical topics such as heat management, site optimization, electrical infrastructure, and so much more. Don't worry, as a member, you'll also get access to our back catalog of deep dives so you can catch up with the rest of the group. Acquire the knowledge and skills you need to navigate the complexities of Bitcoin mining operations with confidence and ease. So what is it sets us apart? In addition to our value additive group dynamics, our members get personalized one-on-one sessions with Bitcoin Mining World's team, industry veterans ready to offer tailored guidance and support. Plus, you'll get the opportunity to connect directly with Scott himself. Our members also gain privileged access to pre-sales and minimum order quantities of ASICs from Bitcoin Mining World. Secure your place in the ever-evolving world of Bitcoin mining with insider opportunities reserved exclusively for our club members. Whether you're a budding enthusiast eager to explore the world of mining or a current miner seeking to expand your operations and stay ahead of the curve, our Mastermind Club is your partner for success. Join the Mastermind Club today and let us help you on your Bitcoin mining journey. Go to bitcoinminingworld.com or scan the QR code on your screen now. And now back to the show.
All right. Well, let's get Jason on the call. Let's bring him up. What up, Jason? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful. Welcome to the Build a Mine podcast, my friend.
Thank you.
So really cool, really good stuff today. I'm super excited about it. I always love talking with Bitcoiners, and we've kind of built up a little bit of a rapport between you and I in the past, and the conversations that we had off camera were really, really great and really valuable to kind of me and my journey so far. So what I'm hoping to do today is kind of distill that information to our audience and show them the best ways, or a good way to build a Bitcoin mine at scale. We'll call that scale 1 to 5 megawatts, which you're very you're very versed in the building of mines, I should say. So real quickly, just give a history lesson on yourself, why you got into Bitcoin, and why you started Hillfort.
Yeah. So, long story short, I got back into Bitcoin, or I got into it about my sophomore year of high school, literally. So about 2013. And it was a wild story then. I remember asking my mom for Christmas one year. I was like, "Hey, I don't want anything. Can we buy Bitcoin?" And she laughed at me and said, "No, I'll get you like a stock account set up at the time." So now on the Christmas cards every now and then, depending on how I'm feeling that year, I'll write how much that would have been. I think during the bull market in like 2020, I think we got up to like 70 mil. But anyway, I digress from there. So after that, it was kind of like, okay, well, Bitcoin's a thing, it exists. Dabbled in it over the years, and then got in the oil and gas industry for a few years, selling equipment and such. And then really what occurred is that China banned it over there. Whole industry moved to Texas pretty much overnight. And then my phone started ringing with, hey, these guys need transformers. They need this equipment. They need that equipment. Can you get it? And at the time, kind of give some background, was just doing hydrogen production, which requires electricity, just like Bitcoin mining, almost the same site, form factor, the whole 9 yards. So had a lot of experience from that. And started working on that field. Found some great sites over here in Mississippi. Took about a year getting one finalized where you could lease it, document it, do it on the DD. Built that up pretty fast, and then left that company. And then about 2 days later, started Hillfort, where we're primarily on the procurement side of things and supporting customers. So we have some hosting operations get up and running, but mainly we're a procurement company. So that's for Bitcoin, HPC, AI, and then just general electrical infrastructure.
Okay.
A boutique procurement firm.
Boutique procurement firm. So, building Hillfort, this is something that you did after you were working for another operation building mines themselves, right?
Exactly.
So what was that thing, the catalyst that made you decide, well, I don't want to build Bitcoin mines anymore. I just want to be on the procurement side of things.
So the procurement side of things, it's very lucrative because, you look back at the gold rush. I hate to use this example, but you have Levi Strauss and his jean company. He started making jeans for gold miners because everyone had to have clothing. So no matter what, you have to have a pair of jeans. So it doesn't matter what the market does. It doesn't matter what what the price of gold is. You have to have jeans at a base level. So looking at that and just seeing what the landscape was out there for procurement, you have a lot of great experts that know what they're doing. You also have a lot of people that are just doing their best, and being able to have the experience of working with the equipment that we sell and understanding kind of the pain points and lesson learned from that has been great to transfer that knowledge to our customers. But essentially, we do procurement because it's better for us, it's better for the clients. And then on top of that, we can offer things like, with hosting, we have miners at really, really good cost for our clients. We have all this access to a lot of equipment we wouldn't otherwise have access to. So it's a lot of our mining operations we're working to build to expand pretty fast.
Jason, I'm curious. I love the origin story of like being in high school and asking your parents for Bitcoin as a gift, and then now you're kind of like you have these subtle owns you can slip into their greeting cards and stuff like that. That's awesome. But you mentioned Hillfort as a we, and being a young person getting into the space very early on. That's right around the time I got into it. Who did you find to partner with, collaborate with? Like, were there peers of your same age, or did you have to really start networking professionally? Tell us a little bit about who you found and how that kind of came together.
You're going to laugh. So the youngest person I think I've ever worked with is 39. I'm pretty young still, but working with peers on this is kind of difficult. Businesses, it's done or it's not, bottom line. But did a lot of just networking and finding the right people. Just a lot of things were dumb luck, to be quite honest with y'all. When I got back into mining, I literally was renting an office space in the town I live in, and COVID happened, condensed that down into a closet, and then said, look, I have free power in here. So I started mining in a closet before I actually had anything at scale running. Landlord hated me because utilities were flat fee. But, I was, gosh, I must have been 22 at the time.
Did they
So
allow you to renew your lease after that or not?
they had no clue because I had these great Rubbermaid bins that we'd hide everything in, like built full cabinets that were sound deadening, the whole 9 yards.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just a time for sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot of maturity there that I think you must have had, because first of all, to have the insight that Bitcoin was something special, that you wanted that instead of stocks, and also that you were wise enough to kind of realize, you know what, I want to do a business and I want to go into this space, and my peers and my friends are probably not the best partners for this. You sought out some better partners, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been, that's the thing is like partners. I mean, I had great partners in the oil and gas space. But pretty much that experience was where it was just, okay, I know where this is going. I know what I need to do, and can get great people on our team in terms of just having great staff members that we work with on a daily basis, really, that allow our company to expand. I can't be an expert in everything. We sell electrical equipment, ASICs, the whole 9 yards. So it's figuring out what parts of the company need more nurturing, and then getting great people in position to nurture that part of it.
Yeah. Every company that's going to be successful, whether you're a Bitcoin company or just, a regular company in the space, in any other space, you need a good team. You need a decent team, and you need to know when your own skills are not up to par with what needs to be done in order to operate effectively, which I think that you've managed to, Hillfort has managed to build a successful team, and we're excited to see where you can take that, further in the future. We're always really advocating for more businesses, more site management companies, more procurement companies, all these things, because it really helps build up the space and make it more appealing to people who are outside of the space. But I want to touch back on something that you said. You talking a little bit about dumb luck and starting out in a closet. And I think that everybody kind of goes through this dumb luck phase where they stumble into mining or Bitcoin or something along those lines. And I just want to hear a little bit more about like what kind of incentivized you to start in the closet, and why other people, like, if our audience is kind of tiptoeing on the side of like, I want to start a Bitcoin mine, but I don't know how to do it. Well, how did you start your Bitcoin mine, and what would your advice be to our audience if they were trying to, get some machines and start running them?
I mean, really, you kind of just have to do it on the machine side of things. I don't have a better way to put it. So, this was years ago, of course. We were in the middle of COVID just hit. We were selling I was selling these very, very specialized gas transport trailers. I'm sure if you Googled my name and like helium or something, it'll pop up. But we were doing all these deals, and then one day during COVID, natural gas or oil went negative, and then all of the demand for natural gas trailers also went pretty much negative. So we had our whole deal book for the entire year just collapse in a day. It was terrible. So that happens, and we're scratching our heads going, okay, we have all these sites we're looking at developing for a totally different purpose. And we had talked about mining in some level. And essentially what resulted from that is we realized we can take the sites we have and develop them into mining sites, and either as a broker or as literally a developer of the site. So I think we spent like $6,000. We bought our first few L3++s at the time. They were 120 volt units, bought them used from China on Newegg. And we were super, sketched out. It was like, holy moly, we're sending all this money to China. We have no clue what we're buying. Neither of us had seen an ASIC miner at the time, and got it cleaned up. I mean, there were bugs in it. I honestly can't believe it passed customs because there were so many bugs in it. I think one was alive, if I remember right.
Oh my
And
goodness.
take it out, clean it up, get it up and running. And we just went from there because it was okay. We have this going. We need to understand how the technology works just on a fundamental base level. I mean, teaching, I had to teach myself, for example, how to change out heat sinks because I literally was not networked enough to know how to go find a Telegram group or someone that knew how to do it. So I just had to figure it out and guess. And I think that's a huge part of it is I always, with the community you guys are creating here, where it exists and it's like a real vibrant community of different people from the space. I mean, I think that is the biggest resource people can have right now. Because I mean, really, like I spent a year working on site development, getting site selection done, all these things, and I just wonder, always in hindsight, how much faster it could have been with resources and people. And I think that in this industry, people forget that there's not a lot of competition. It's more of like co-working within the same space. Because Bitmain's always going to make more units. That's the bottom line.
We again saw that need in the market, and Scott and I have been around the space a long time, and Scott definitely has seen that need throughout his time in the space, and so many people can benefit just from having anyone to bounce questions off of, just from having anyone to ask advice to, and just from that, like you said, a community that people can learn from each other from. I mean, that's both Scott and I started with meetups, and just with the topic of Bitcoin alone, it's so valuable to have a place like that where people can go in person or virtually nowadays, more and more. But mining specifically, it's kind of hard to gather enough experience into one place where new entrants to the marketplace can benefit and get that kickstart to their learning curve. And so that's why it's so impressive. I think what you've done, Jason, is just kind of brute force your way on the learning curve as quickly as you could and have the success you've had. So that's quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that a lot, Will. It's been brute force, bottom line, but I will say one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was this guy I knew out of Europe who was mining at a pretty large scale at the time. I think it was 2 or 3 megawatts, which is a big mine at the time. I mean, it still is today. But I was putting copper heat sinks. I was ordering them from Germany, copper heat sink replacements on an L3. And the chip temperature, first off, the cost was the same. The actual chip temperatures, though, were far superior to what they were with the aluminum ones. And I was like, I told him, look, we were doing this. It was really cool. It changed the unit up. It's during the summertime. We were in a metal building in a storage closet. So we had no real cold air intake. It was all just hot air. We were piping to the ceiling. And he looked at me and he said, this is not a business of 1% changes. It's a business of 10 to 20% changes.
Interesting. What do you think? What's meant by that? Just for the audience's sake, what are some examples?
1% efficiency gains on a unit that's making 200 terahash is only 2 terahash. That's 10 cents. If you can do it 20%, that's where you want to focus your time in. Right. And it's also the things that are minus 1%. I mean, we're talking about you can focus on all the little details, and perfection can be attainable for 10 to 15 minutes. Don't get me wrong. You can have 100% uptime. It's going to be for 10 minutes. That's my assumption. But not driving yourself crazy over the minutia of, okay, we have 99%, not 100%. And focusing on the things that really advance you past 10 to 20% really are the core goals of really being successful and growing it. Because otherwise you will not sleep. You'll drive your team crazy because of the expectations you have for them. And that's really what it comes down to, is just focusing on the overall picture, not the minutia of one worker out of 100.
Right.
By worker, I mean miner.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's interesting too, what you just said, referring to an individual ASIC as a worker. Can you kind of just flesh that out a bit? Like how did that vocabulary emerge? And I like that a lot. And just explain why that's useful, that kind of thinking.
So essentially the product. So when you look at uptime of the miner, that's based on the actual productivity of a piece of equipment, right? And again, this is so going back to mining again. If you have a mine that you've built, so we're massive underground somewhere, there's hundreds of people working in it. You have miners that are all assembled in one central location and they're all working towards a goal. Well, people are going to be more productive than others. And it's really about what you generate in terms of proof of work. So again, this is my understanding of it. There's also just a very simple explanation of at a pool level, you have a worker name. But essentially, workers, they're in the mine, they're mining, they're putting whatever they're mining and it's getting weighed, and that's their productivity for the day. There's a standardized basis on how efficient they should be and what they should produce. There's actually daily differences based on the worker. The same thing really applies to the miner because you have everything assembled in an environment. You try to create the best environment possible. However, no matter how the miners are done, what models they are, what brand they are, there's going to be differences in productivity across the board. And it's going to vary daily. I think cleanliness of the mine is even an underrated thing that affects productivity of the miners. I mean, I've seen a wasp get sucked into a miner before, and I mean, it doesn't perform so well, of course. But it's things like that. So I guess the worker example of the wasp getting sucked into an actual ASIC miner would be just you got stung by a wasp at work. You're not going to do so well. But long story short, that's pretty much where it comes from. Is that you can have great productivity and everyone's generating a return, but it's just a matter of how much.
Yeah, mining is a super competitive business, and I know this is something that as you scale up becomes a very apparent reality. But for hobby miners or beginner miners, it's not as much. I mean, the inputs and realizing how you need to become competitive, that I think presents itself to hobby miners or beginner miners or small scales of projects. But as you grow, that's one of the biggest challenges. Can you talk about that? Like, you started small and then you scaled up. Maybe relate your experience to what other folks who may be watching this are considering.
Yeah, so I mean, we started out. I'm gonna find a picture of it. I'm gonna send it to you all. But I went and bought one of those really ugly like garage cabinets that's metal and has the shelving in it, the whole 9 yards, and drilled that out, put holes in it for ventilation, the whole 9 yards, spray foamed it in the middle, like made it totally sealed. Actually had a camera that could look at the miners at a given time as well. Essentially that's where I started at the time. I mean, I had a L3++, so I was mining Dogecoin at the time. Dogecoin ripped. So when that happened, it was
this in late 2014?
No, this was like 2020.
Okay. The
Yeah.
second big rip of Dogecoin.
Second big rip. Yeah. So I mean, we were cash flow positive on those miners in like 3 months. It was like, this is killer. All right, they're making money now. But one thing I want to point out that I do observe in this industry is that like the term hobby miner, I think it's so varied here. Because you either see people that have 10 ASICs that have gone and spent, let's call it 40 grand on just computers, and they probably spent $10,000 or $15,000 on infrastructure at their house and all of that. I think we're the only industry that would call anyone that invested $55,000 into something a hobbyist. Like, seriously. I can't think of another example. I mean, it'd be like having an LA Fitness as your home gym equivalent.
Maybe people are into racing and like cars and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, racing. That's the best comparison.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just a level at scale where you get to, and with the hobby miners, I mean, we looked at Bitcoin mining as the one we wanted to do. It just wasn't viable, and it's because we didn't have the voltage for it. The L3++s were 120 volts. We want those, and we mined Bitcoin by mining Dogecoin. We were on NiceHash, and that was not a plug for NiceHash. Go find your own service. They might have a competitor now. I have no clue, but you have to adapt. And that's where just scaling and operating it works. But really, you can simulate a mine on a macro level and on a micro level just with 2 miners, because no matter what, it's just a scale up event. So if you run your 2 miners like you would run your 4,000, let's say, with the same level of seriousness and dedication, and you're on it every day, you'll very quickly understand what goes into running 2 to 3,000 just based off of the lessons you learn from running those two and trying to maintain perfection on two.
Yeah, something that I've noticed, and I only run like 1 or 2 miners at this point, and I'm working on scaling up. But something that you said in the last portion was, cleanliness, and you're talking about like the cleanliness of the machines. But I think your cleanliness of your wire configuration, where your PDUs are at, where the machines are stacked, like how the wires are configured, not having 40 feet of Ethernet cable rolled up and tagged to the side of the miner. Like all these things kind of play into the efficiency and the effectiveness of your operation. And you talk about how if you can run 2 miners, you could, project that out and scale up to 4,000. But there's this phrase that I kind of think about a lot. Is like, how you do anything is how you do everything. So what I'm kind of getting at is like the people who want to scale their home hobbyist mining setups to, a full megawatt or half a megawatt, look at how you're doing your mining operation now. How do you have your shed set up? How do you have your filters set up? How do you have your exhaust set up? And is that something that you could scale up, or do you need to put more work into your cleanliness, your configuration, your organization before you just like start spending, like you said, $40,000 on 10 more miners?
Yeah. I mean, that's critical. I mean, part of it too, though, is just it's the cool factor. I mean, the reason I got into mining at a professional level was because of the gas industry, is that finding people to take energy was so difficult. I mean, this was in the hydrogen business. There's like 7 companies that buy hydrogen at commercial scales in the US. And just getting it where the idea of we can put a box somewhere of computers and we're going to be generating more money than we would giving 30-day lines of credits to mega companies is the coolest thing ever. But it's also the part of, if you're mining at your house, you're pretty much unlimited on what you can do. And I mean, really, the fact that someone could go and responsibly spend $55,000 on something that is like Bitcoin mining for their house, it's amazing. But it's taking pride in that. I mean, it's like the guy who waxes his boat every weekend or has the race car that's really pretty. Same example. So you got to do it all right and doing it well and just enjoying the cool factor of it all. I think it's so important, because if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
And I mean,
it is huge, by the way. It's a safety issue too.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it's not such a big deal when you're running 1 or 2 machines and you've got the wire strung up behind the wall. But when you're, walking through a container and you've got 4,000 units and you just got cables strung from left and right. And I've seen some pictures of some crazy miners, they're just like, oh, well, and I mean miners and like like people, but like they'll just throw it in there, just get it up and running and get it online. And it's like, well, like, you're not really thinking about longevity and like the life cycle of these machines, and somebody's going to trip over something, you're going to break cords. Like take the time to actually think about it and progress. I mean, in my own personal like aspect or viewpoint, it's like I only have 1 miner up and running right now, but I'm trying to do everything I can in the situation, the setup, to make that machine as efficient as possible so that I can eventually roll into more machines. And one thing I want to say to our audience is don't get discouraged because you can only afford 1 machine or 5 machines. Like, yeah, I know that the Bitcoin price is doing some crazy stuff right now. It's down, but it might rip and you might feel FOMO to get into machines, but like, take it step by step, at a time, and don't just ape into it, because most of the time, like from what I've heard from other miners who have failed in the past, is when you just ape into something and you don't know what you're doing, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly.
So, Will, you've got something for us?
Yeah, let's take a break for a minute. I'm going to let everybody know about the Bitcoin mining conference. So this podcast episode is brought to you by the Mining Conference. Join us this fall, September 27th through 29th in Brainerd, Minnesota, for an incredible event where you can learn more about Bitcoin mining, gain hands-on experience at our Bitcoin Build a Mine Bootcamp crash course, and meet a ton of industry executives and professionals, thought-provoking speakers and builders from all around the country and the world so that you can kickstart your Bitcoin mining journey. The mining conference will feature industry leaders. We'll have great speakers. And again, just a great opportunity for professional networking and building out your contacts list so that you can solve the problems that are in front of you in your Bitcoin mining journey. I mentioned that we're doing the Build a Mine crash course. We usually do a Build a Mine boot camp that's about 3 days long, a couple times a year. And we're condensing that into a 1-day course the day before the conference. And this is an incredible opportunity to get all the benefits of that boot camp in just 1 day, very curated and condensed into a format that will help you get further along on your build and so that'll allow you to learn how to do mining repair, learn how to model out and understand the economics better for your mine and your financial model, and also just any sort of troubleshooting that questions that you may have can get answered in this crash course. So mark your calendars and secure your spot today. Go to theminingconference.com and check out more information there. You can buy tickets, and we'd love to see you there. Again, it's September 27th through 29th in Brainerd, Minnesota. It's a family-friendly location. It's a beautiful vacation spot at a beautiful time of year in northern Minnesota. So go to the website, theminingconference.com or bitcoinminingworld.com and learn more. And now we can get back to our discussion with Jason. I have Trevor, I sent you a chart. I just wanted to ask Jason about it. I don't know if you've got that, if you can pull that up and screen share, but I want to present some of our guests with a little FUD and give you guys the opportunity to kind of dispel or debunk it, or just kind of discuss it. It might be something legitimately worth considering, but I often hear pushback from folks who are critical of Bitcoin mining as a profit center, as a business. There's definitely a declining profitability in terms of the competitiveness and the hash rate growth and things like that. And of course, there's cyclicality with the market as well. And once Trevor pulls up this chart, I just want you to kind of take a look at it and talk to folks in the audience about like how worried should we be about this in terms of its impact on Bitcoin mining as a business? There's a chart I wanted to share with the audience and Jason, have you kind of talk about it. It's basically describing Bitcoin mining profitability of Bitcoin per day from, say, the summer of 2015 through almost current. It's a little outdated. I think the chart shows through April of this year. But in terms of US dollars per day per terahash, there's it looks like a shitcoin chart.
Oh, it's rough.
It's rough. And so
I don't even need to see the chart to tell you it's rough.
it is rough. And Trevor will be able to pull it up here in a second, but just talk to the audience about basically what this challenge is for miners and why you can still potentially be, maybe you can't, maybe Bitcoin mining is going away, and that wouldn't be good for Bitcoin as a network in general. But go ahead and just kind of riff on that. How can Bitcoin miners who want to be profitable and see this as an exciting opportunity kind of debunk this FUD, if you will?
So I'm going to start with, let's see, we had that crash, this Monday? Yeah, on Monday, we had the crash over the weekend. I want to say the hash rate price went down to 3.8 cents per terahash. So your S21 that you just spent $4,000 on roughly was bringing in $760 a day.
Right.
But you're spending $4 to $5 on power if you had a good rate at a good host. We're in a very competitive industry, but I also think that there's a few factors at play here that are quite fascinating. So you're seeing energy costs go up across the board. There's this big push on renewables. There's a lot of investment being made into debt on a power company level. And what I mean is like nationally on power companies. And that results in higher power rates. But the other thing is we have high interest rates on everything right now. Just the interest rates on housing affect everything else too. So any company that's going and buying or borrowing funds right now to go and revolutionize their power system for 2020, 30 or 2030, 2035, the future, they're borrowing at high rates. That's increasing production costs, literally, of electricity. I mean, the chart is a rough chart, bottom line. But at some level, you have to look at the idea that mining is not, this is going to be controversial because I know we are a Bitcoin mining world. But mining is not just all about the Bitcoin. And I hate to put it that way. But we have new things like Caspa. That's what Alphinion. I can't even think of what it's called. Y'all probably know the name of it. But we're seeing miners go on the market for 30 grand a piece, and they're making 90, 100 bucks a day in profits. And that sounds really great. But the one thing that is interesting to think about here is that, Will, you could go buy probably a megawatt of S19J Pros for a little bit more than 100 grand right now. But if you put 3 Caspa miners in there and you spent 90,000 and you had your miners, so now we didn't spend $1 million on S21s. We literally have $190,000 worth of equipment. Whatever those Caspa miners makes, which I'm just going to assume off the top of my head is about 150 a day in profit. That is significant when you look at what you're bringing in on your J Pros you spent 100 grand on. So at some level as a Bitcoin miner, everyone's very, very solely focused on low power costs, maximizing hash rate and capital costs, but energy costs are going up. We know that. So it's becoming the best energy trader that you can possibly be, because at some level, all you're doing is processing energy.
Right.
It's not even a computing power thing. It's like energy trading. The chart is ugly, though. I will give you that. But you sometimes just have to be smarter than everyone else and take a risk. But
give us an example.
Off grid, literally off grid.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I mean it sounds hilarious, but I mean, like, I have natural gas at my house I live in. I don't use natural gas. I was in the gas industry. Will not have natural gas appliances in my house. Been around too many gas leaks. But I could go to Lowe's right now and go buy a generator, hook it up to the gas line, and be running it. And my power costs would actually be lower than if I just plugged it in the wall. That's a crazy reality right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's things like that. And that's just for the most rudimentary hobby mining idea. You go to Lowe's and buy a generator, plug into your gas line, and you're mining. It can be done that easily. You might not even need an electrician. You could buy like a black box and wire it the right way.
And this is go ahead, Trevor. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I know for a fact they sell generators at Home Depot that have 220 volt plugs.
Exactly.
I'm a contractor, so like we have one. It runs off of gas, but I mean, it's a pretty efficient machine, and it'll run a Bitcoin miner if you had a PDU set up to just plug directly into it. So I mean, it can be done. I just want to say, like, I'm a hardcore maxi, and what you're saying about, the Caspa miners and all these other mining coins and stuff like that, like there is something to it. I would caveat that by saying, don't hold it in whatever coin you're mining.
No. Yeah, we're not holding the altcoins. With that, you're mining that currency to convert it into Bitcoin same day, the second it clears.
Yeah.
Do not ride the market.
Don't ride
it. This is important, though. I think that, you mentioned being smarter than everybody else, figuring out how to be a better energy buyer than everybody else.
Yeah.
And again, like, part of that is finding energy sources that are cheaper, like you mentioned, natural gas versus your home electric on the grid. Or a lot of folks, I mean, I know stranded gas mining is very, very
Jeez.
interesting for lots of folks. I have a small mining project that uses stranded gas in southern Wyoming, and again, we're still trying to chop wood to get that thing highly optimized, but that's, I still think, very promising, which is kind of why I wanted to present you with the chart and to do some FUD busting. And as far as the altcoin stuff goes, like, yeah, that's part of being a better energy buyer in a way. You sometimes during the market cycle, you have to find opportunities where
Mhm.
you can become more profitable using your existing equipment for some of these other coins maybe that are yielding more, and then just convert that to Bitcoin right away. This
Exactly.
has been done throughout Bitcoin's history, whether it was, you know, people choosing to mine Litecoin, or people like you were mining Dogecoin for a while, or I mean, it happens a lot. I know a lot of people who are hardcore maxis who were mining lots of Ethereum back when in its proof of work days and just converting it right to Bitcoin. And again, you can view it in the following way. You can think about it like, and I'd like you to expound on this, Jason, but
Mhm.
if you don't like these altcoins because you're, Bitcoin purist, a Bitcoin maxi, whatever, then you can mine these other coins and short them. That's what the mining and the selling is essentially. And so you're
Yeah.
kind of punishing those chains, for giving you this great opportunity. So go ahead and talk more about that if you would.
Well, it's at the point too. I mean, here's the bottom line. I think most people are mining Bitcoin for the sake of getting Bitcoin cheaper. So if you are still mining Bitcoin and there's a technology out there that allows you to mine Bitcoin for less and acquire more Bitcoin for a bigger discount, which is why anyone gets into mining, then you have to pursue it. Like, bottom line, it is critical, it is vitally important. But I mean, really just being
It,
able to be versatile and setting it up. I mean, with your chart, Will, we have interest rates are high, power rates are going up, hash rate price is going down, and hash rate's going up. And our price, I mean, we're pretty stable at this like $50,000 to $70,000 range. That's been our kind of peak in a 3-year term. So we're seeing units get more expensive, be more efficient, the whole 9 yards. And just that, in a sense, is more of a game of how can we expand the business before everything gets more expensive? Because I think we all know there's a bull cycle coming. We don't know what that looks like, but really it could be, we could see $300,000 Bitcoin. And the bottom line is that you will have a machine that's making you more money, but it's a matter of making sure that machine is still making you money now.
Yeah, the name of the game is to get more Bitcoin, but it's also to stay solvent and not fall prey
Exactly.
to what's happening in the market right now. So if you can find another way to convert that energy into Bitcoin, maybe like you're saying, maybe there's an intermediary
Mhm.
where you're transferring from, we'll call it Doge to Bitcoin, but you're going from energy to Doge to Bitcoin, but you're still the end goal is more Bitcoin. I understand what you're saying. I may not fully agree with the policies of the different altcoins and stuff like that, but I can see
Oh,
the,
I don't care about the policy, I'll tell
yeah,
you that much.
yeah. And that's kind of my point, is like you don't have to care about it to understand that there's a route here that could take you to having more Bitcoin faster.
Exactly.
So, I want to kind of change it up a little bit, and I want to talk about mistakes. Okay, you've been in the space for a while. You've known about Bitcoin since 2013. You've built, multiple large scale facilities. Let's talk a little bit about like some of the mistakes that you've happened, some of the crazy things that you've seen in the space, from your own experience. Maybe it's from somebody else and you've just watched and heard, but like I want to hear some things that have gone wrong.
Um, there's a lot. You can mess up a lot. And that's where, I mean, procurement, bottom line, you have to buy that was one thing. Procurement was a big one. Picking the right partners is a huge one. Having a good team around you. is
Okay,
huge.
let me rephrase that. So for miners who are just getting into the space,
Oh
they've
yeah.
been mining for a little bit, maybe they've got 10 machines, maybe they've got 20, maybe they're looking to scale up. What
Mhm.
are some of the mistakes that can be made for people in those situations that aren't looking for partners at this moment, aren't looking at building
Oh
a
yeah.
greenfield site out?
I mean, assuming you have 20 miners, you're probably not at your house. You probably have a hosting provider. Um, Having a good hosting provider is huge. And there are deals that are too good to be true. I mean, you can't provide, I really don't think a hosting provider can provide a good level of service below 7 cents. That's just my opinion. People disagree with me all the time. But if you have 20 units and you're down two of them, that's a big deal. So really it's finding the good, having a bad hosting provider will break you. And then also just not getting conned if you try to buy more equipment from bad vendors because you found a cheap price. I've heard stories of that all day. Because at that point you're very cost sensitive. I don't have a better way to put it other than that. And that's
Yeah.
where Bitcoin mining world, y'all's community we have, Hillfort. I mean, we kind of one thing we're launching right now is we are actually doing procurement as a service. So I've noticed with most of our clients, we're selling a good to them. And we compete with all these different people. It's always, oh, we have better prices from this guy. And it's like, okay, knock yourself out. But what we found is that we can go and flip the script here a little bit and be representing the buyer on transactions because we have so much experience that we can best support them in doing what they need within their targets, of course.
Uh,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
and that's really, I mean, those are the two biggest things I look at is having good hosts and not losing all your money because you sent it to the wrong person.
Yeah, we've heard horror stories of, we're part of this mastermind club, and there's members in there who have literally sent machines out and never heard back from that person again. And part of that's, due diligence on the sender's side. Part of it's being screwed by your hosting provider or somebody who you thought was going to be your hosting provider. Like I've literally heard a story of a guy who sent 10 machines to a facility, but he didn't do a contract, he didn't write anything out before he sent those machines, and they just disappeared, never to be
Yeah.
seen again. And that happens. I think that the bar for hosting is really low, so companies who can come in and provide a really good service for 8 to 10 cents can be beneficial for a lot of people. I like what you said there, especially about like making sure that you use reputable services, and maybe it costs you a little bit more, but does it really? Because if you lose 10 miners and each miner is $2,500, you just lost $25,000. So
Exactly. And I mean, it's there's so many ways that something could go wrong, especially with the size of these transactions. And it's just making sure you're smart because I mean, you lose 25 grand. That I don't care who you are. I mean, there are people that does not matter. We'll be fair, but that's a lot of money.
yeah,
Yeah,
I would freak out over $250 to go lose 25 grand would probably make me want to crawl under a rock and die.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they exist. It's out there.
Yeah.
That's too. I mean, that's where like with vendors. I mean, it's people that sell equipment. Everything you put on there, picture wise, everything needs to be timed, like watermarked. I mean, one thing I do. I don't know if y'all saw this, but on our website we have a few pictures of like used units. Well, actually, like I literally flew to Wyoming one time to go and inspect a lot personally that we were going to buy and put stickers all over it. So we have photos of used units we've sold, and our stickers are all over them. They cannot be copied, they cannot be reposted. And within 3 days of us having those pictures out there on the internet, it's kind of funny. I get a call from my mom of all people because she's joined all these Facebook Bitcoin groups, and she's like, "Jason, this person has your Hillfort stickers on all these miners they're trying to sell." So that is how lowbrow some of the scammers are.
Yeah.
But avoiding that is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about communities, and the Bitcoin mining world, Hillfort for specifics, like we have groups that talk about scams specifically. So any
Yeah.
of our listeners, like, I highly recommend joining our scams and crypto cons group, because it's basically just a group that tells you all the scams that are happening right now, because anybody who might be a scammer gets posted in that. Everybody blows it up and says, hey, like, this guy's a scammer, don't do work with this company or this person and stuff like that, because it happens a lot. And like it's really negative to our image in the space, you know, as Bitcoiners, as Bitcoin miners. So we want to help as many people not go through those mistakes of getting scammed or getting screwed out of, you know, however much money it is, because they'll take $1,000 from you, they'll take $100,000 from you. Me and Will personally know somebody who I think they scammed him like $19,000 because he was trying to send a wire transfer, and these guys were able to get into his email, and they just changed the account routing information and stole 19 grand from him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's definitely make sure that you're doing your due diligence.
Yeah, getting educated about scams is harrowing but necessary. Like you just need to be aware of this stuff so that your guard can be up, and so you can have your spidey sense sharpened about what you might need to look out for.
Yeah,
And
it's so negative too. I just have to say, like, the scamming is not the whole industry by any means. It doesn't happen very common, but when it happens, it hurts people, and it's new people that come in this space.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'll say
that's
this:
what,
like, I don't care if you're a client of ours, but if you reach out, you're like, I don't love this, we will try to vet it for you. And if we don't like it, we'll tell you. We're not going to say, oh, we'll sell you it for this much. We're not going to upsell you, but literally just to make sure people don't get scammed. And we've done that repeatedly in the past.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's the mark of a good company, a good person right there. You know, like, we're not necessarily, I mean, we want to make money. We want you to use our services because our services help us make money, but just don't get scammed. Don't get screwed.
Exactly.
Like, we just want to make sure that you don't lose your socks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we want to make sure that you enjoy at least one cycle, right? Like
Yeah.
and the young entrants, the new entrants to the industry are obviously the most vulnerable to these kinds of things. And so, yeah, Jason, that's awesome that you're willing to do it. That's, of course, what, you know, we have things at Bitcoin Mining World that are available for newbies to, you know, just be a resource to help you overcome those first few months, first year or two, that get you past that understanding of like where the risks are, where the pitfalls are, what to look out for with scams and things like that. So those are super important, because we lose people early on, we might lose them forever.
Exactly. And that's the biggest bottom line of this whole thing.
So Jason, one quick question for you about hosting. A lot of miners will move into hosting as a revenue center for their business, as opposed to just, you know, scaling up themselves and owning all the hash rate completely. Can you talk about what the decision process is like for that, in terms of, you know, running a mining business, and when it might be a good idea or not for a mining operator to explore the hosting model?
So it's with the hosting model and expanding that, what it comes down to is economies of scale. So we fall back into the idea that, I mean, you look at the mega companies that are out there, like the Marathons of the world and such. I think their power rates are like 4 cents, 3.5, 4 cents. Very low publicly, I think. Don't quote me on that. But essentially, when you're going into the hosting space, it's a matter of achieving economies of scale without spending on economies of scale, if that makes sense. So you build the great mine out, you build a great container, you know, system, you have a whole great electrical infrastructure, and you're hosting because it allows you to access economies of scale. You still need one guy to run half a megawatt. You still need one guy to run 2 megawatts. It doesn't matter. But you can be generating more stability for your business just because you're covering the bottom line there with your hosting money. And that's where I think it's quite misunderstood, is that people view hosting as, oh, you're on a Bitcoin miner. Well, you can still be Bitcoin mining the whole time, but hosting most of the time is just allowing your business to be more successful and make more money.
Absolutely. There's this whole like debate between like what exactly is a Bitcoin miner, because I mean, if you think about it really, and I don't want to get too much on a tangent, but if you think about it really, most people are mining to a pool. And so like they're providing their hash rate to the pool. So if you think about it, they're just really hashers, and the pool is the miner because they're the one, bringing up the block, like creating the block template, verifying the transactions, knowing which transactions go into the block, and then actually like submitting that to the blockchain.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's a whole thing that we don't, that's a whole nother podcast. But no, I completely agree with you. I think that hosting for a lot of people is actually a better opportunity just to get into mining and just to understand the dynamics and bring in a little bit of extra cash for equipment that you don't have to run, manage, operate, maintain. You just pay a flat fee and collect your Bitcoin every month.
Exactly. And that's huge.
So, well, Will, do you have anything else you want to say real fast?
No, let's get into the fun questions.
Yes. So I asked this question to everybody, and I like to get the range of answers because everybody comes at the world from a different perspective.
Mhm.
So Jason, I want to ask you, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
That's a hard one.
Just go with it, man.
That's a charged question, man. It's like, I mean, stability in a way. That's pretty much, I mean, just stability.
Isn't that weird because it's such a volatile asset and a volatile space? But I totally agree with you. Just continue to like flesh that out some.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we're trading energy here, right? So you're selling it every 2 hours or 4 hours. I mean, you're killing it at that point. You're cash flowing every 4 hours. But the other part of it is pretty much everything else can disappear. But apparently, I mean, again, the internet's never failed that I know of. But Bitcoin's still there. It's still pretty stable. I mean, look at what happened during COVID. Everything else was terrifying. Bitcoin rallied. It was like a massive positivity driver. I mean, I wasn't in Nashville this year, but at Miami after COVID happened, was after the bull market. I mean, it was
Popping.
Yeah, it was positive. I mean, there were guys that flew out from California that were, oh, I mean, I was sat next to one guy and he literally was like, it was a little weird, but it was cool. He's on the phone with his wife being like, you won't believe this. This is amazing. Like, this is the future, like the whole nine yards. Like, you would have thought that he was like from back, he went in the car from Back to the Future, went and saw the future, came back and was like, this is what I thought. Not even kidding. And like I was talking to him and he literally, flew down for the weekend or flew down to go see it and was going back to go build houses when he went back to California. And that was it, just because he was so amped up about it. So, I mean, for a lot of people, it's stability, and not just like financial stability, but just the idea that with everything else going on, there's just a set level of stability that exists and just everything else other than just the financial side of things.
I really like the way that you put that because, I'm about to be a new dad. My kid's gonna be here like I would say like 2 to 4 weeks. And stability is something that like I never had as a kid. Like I was always going from place to place, like never sure what mom and dad were doing or which jobs they had. And so what you're talking about is the ability to have a stable life, a
Yeah.
stable income, whatever it is, whether you're a Bitcoin miner or you're just saving in Bitcoin, like you have this income being stored in Bitcoin and it's not being decimated. It's not being taken away. It's not being stolen from you. It's just kind of carrying on into the future. And it allows, individuals to start thinking about like how they want to act in the world, how they want to exude or express their force, I guess you could say, their energy, their output. And it's very stable. So as much as the price is volatile, like the fundamentals that Bitcoin brings to you are very stable.
Exactly.
So I definitely love that answer. A couple more things before we close up. We are wrapping this up. So we talked about the mining conference in Brainerd, Minnesota in the middle of this episode. Jason, we want to give you the opportunity to come out and meet us if you have the chance. So we're going to give you 2 free tickets to our mining conference. I'll send you the details to that
Awesome.
afterwards. If you have anybody that you'd like to come with you, if you want to do a giveaway or anything like that, the second ticket is for that, but the first ticket is for you specifically. And we'd love to see you out there.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah. So, Jason, real quick, just tell people where they can find you. I know they can find you at hillfort.us, but anything else that you want to shill, tell people about what you've got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot of different, a lot of exciting projects. I think the next 2 weeks or so, we're about to launch our hosting service officially. So that one's been huge for us. We have some great infrastructure, really good site. So we're excited about that. Stellar team. We're on Telegram and we have our whole channel set up there. We're on Twitter, everything. I think Trevor, you tagged me in a bunch of posts. But essentially, we're keeping updates rolling on as fast as we can. Any information that we have, our website's the best single resource. I mean, it pretty much lays out everything we offer. And then our website's great. Our channels and such are the best ones. So, I mean, that's really where we're able to present the best options, the best equipment, the whole 9 yards.
Can people find the channels on the website?
Yes.
All right. So it's hillfort.us.
Exactly. And just had that redone after our last podcast. So I think it's pretty. Trevor's seen it.
I agree. It looks nice. It's very intuitive, easy to scroll through. You see what they can offer on there. They've got a lot of cool things. So I implore everybody who's just curious, go take a look at it. Reach out to them. They've got a perfect, easy contact you page, so you can reach out to them.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
And if you're going to reach out to us or you're trying to buy something from us, go through that contact page. I've already had people do like different variations, my Telegram name, the whole 9 yards. It's hilarious. But just get in touch with us through that. That's the best way possible.
Yeah, you guys heard it here first. Definitely just start. If you can procure an ASIC for a small amount of cash, maybe it's $1,000, get it up and running, play around with it. And I'm sure Jason will sell you a Caspa miner if he can find one.
Oh, we have them. I mean, we do MOQ1 all day. So
there you go. A lot of people don't do MOQ1s. So and that's minimum order quantities for anybody who's not in the know. So yeah. Jason will sell you one machine, and a lot of resellers won't do that. So thank you, Jason. We appreciate your time here today. We thank you very much for all of the advice and the information that you helped distill to our audience. I learned a lot, so I'm hoping that other people learned a lot as well. Guys, I've told you that I was going to do this in the past, and I'm going to start doing it. So we actually got a fountain boost on our episode with Chris with Nerd Miners. So Marks boosted 3,847 sats on that episode, and he said, great interview of a solid project. So I just want to say thank you, Marks, for boosting us. Anybody else, reach out on Fountain, send us a boost. The highest boosts are going to get shout out on the episode. And then I think, in the future, I'd like to do a giveaway. So if we do a giveaway, maybe we'll give away a bit axe, or, I've got a cool Avalon miner here that we might do a giveaway on as well. But what I'm going to do is all of the people in a certain period of time who boost us on Fountain will be entered into the drawing for the giveaway when we do decide to do that. So hit us up on Fountain, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you like this episode, leave us a comment, tell us what you liked about it. But with that, guys, stay solvent. And this was the Build a Mine podcast.
Please note, the Build a Mind podcast provides information for general educational purposes only. This information should not be construed as legal, financial, or investment advice. We do not guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information presented, and we encourage you to consult with a professional advisor, legal advisor, and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The Build a Mind podcast and its affiliates are not responsible for any losses incurred as a result of using the information provided.